Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Let's start out today's video. We're going to be taking a look at every single map inside of Ranked and give you guys the best first picks, the best last picks, and just overall just solid brawlers. So this is really good in terms of just figuring out what's good inside of the meta, and you can just always pull up this cheat sheet every single time before you get into a game. It's real worthwhile, trust me. So I'll be going through, also giving you guys some advice in terms of drafting tips, but let's go into it. So I'm going to be going through in game mode order, in alphabetical order, and I'll put timestamps in the description. So Bounty dry season is first. So with Bounty, I don't think the meta has changed a whole lot, but to be honest, actually Spike can be pretty annoying, especially the lower you are. So if you are below Masters, Spike is a very, very good option in Bounty because people don't know how to dodge curveball. Very consistent. You've got as well Pierce, the new brawler. He is absolutely insane and so good inside of Bounty because his super can just confirm so many kills. Squeak is really good because it often depends on who gets blue star first, and then if the enemy team gets blue star, you want a brawler that can at least peek around walls. So that's why like Jean is good, Spike is good, Squeak is good, and there's a few other options here as well. So in terms of sixth pick, I don't think you really have to worry a whole lot about dangerous sixth picks unless you literally pick three the same type of brawler. So for example, three snipers. Well, the enemy's obviously going to go like Mortis, Leon, or something along those lines. So not a ton of drafting tips here. Just the main tip is just trying to get that blue star and defend the lead. Next up for Bounty, we have Hideout. So Hideout on your screen right here. Typically, I'd say last year in terms of the pro data, normally the snipers actually wouldn't be too hot, but I guess there's a few snipers in this meta for sure. So Pierce is still going to be insane. Kazi is very good in Hideout just because you can easily collect the blue star and then just hide in that left little corner right there and just create a lot of havoc. And then you have Nani. Nani is the best sharpshooter in Bounty right now because of the amount of damage that Nani can put out, and then you always need like a consistent brawler. So again, what I always advise in Bounty is kind of like one sniper, one kind of hybrid, or at least like semi-aggressive brawler. So whether that's like a Mina, whether that's a Kaze, even whether that's like a Gus. You might not think Gus is aggressive, but he has a lot of health, so that can actually allow him to be a bit more aggressive. Same goes for like RT, for example, Jae Young, but a bit on the non-squishy side, so they can afford to push up the map. That makes sense. And then again, last pick isn't too, like, you don't have to worry too much about the last pick, but there are a few threatening things. Just make sure that you're just picking literally the best brawlers when it comes down to Bounty. Next up, we have Layer Cake. So here, your best picks on your screen right here. So for first picks, again, it's kind of the same old with Bounty. Ems is actually a really good pick on Layer Cake because what you can do with Ems is you can use the other gadget, Acid Spray, and deal so much damage. It is nearly unstoppable on a map like this. So many walls, so much protection. So Ems is definitely a good one. You do got to be careful of the throwers mainly with Ems, but I think most of the time the Acid Spray can even help you against those throwers. So Spike's going to be very, very good here. So the thing that you got to worry about with Layer Cake is definitely the last picks, or just in general picking too many squishy brawlers, and then the enemy can just get a free assassin pick. Assassins are very dangerous on Layer Cake, guys. So again, I'd actually stay away from the typical snipers as much as possible, you know, one maximum. And even so, you can get pushed back easily because brawlers like Ali are insane on Layer Cake. Shade, insane. Hank, very, very strong. Carl can be very strong as well. You've got Mortis, Trunk, Lily. There's so many good aggressive picks on this map. So making sure they got one brawler that has at least some decent damage or can defend themselves, one brawler that can go a bit aggressive and apply pressure, and then one in between. And then finally for Bounty, we have Shooting Star. So probably the most simple map in the game in terms of the draft. You just purely just pick the best snipers that are just readily available to you, and that's pretty much how you go because there's not really a ton of countering in this map. I think the only way to really counter in draft is by your mid. So again, for example, if you go like three snipers or nothing that can push into the mid that well, then normally the enemy has like a free thrower last pick. That's really about it, or Grey or something along those lines. So yeah, you're just trying to pick the best snipers basically, where Pierce, Gus, Jean, pretty safe. Nani, really safe. Piper can be good, but don't pick it if Nani is available. You still got Bell with the traps, you know, a good Byron can apply a lot of pressure. Angelo's a pretty safe pick because he can jump away. Mina can apply a lot of pressure, especially if you're a good Mina player. Yeah, a lot of brawlers that are just typically the same in every meta. So now we're going into Dribble, starting off with center stage. So center stage, the meta has changed a little bit here because you take a look at Well, the reason why I didn't do a rank guide last season, because it was just literally 6 buffy brawlers just go everywhere, even like Mortis in Heist, for example. That's how broken the meta was. But here, Ems, of course, is going to be one of the best brawlers inside of the game, and especially on a map with a bunch of grass. Do I even need to say anything else? Rico. So Rico, I'm not too sure whether the bug has been fixed yet. I think it's pretty much fixed right now. But even without the bug, I think it's absolutely insane. So underrated right now. People are just not realizing the power of the unload speed buff. It is crazy, and he's just really hard to stop on a map like center stage. Spike with his scouting. So what I recommend here with center stage, so there's a lot of options. What I definitely recommend, again, you need at least one brawler that will scout the grass for you. So whether that's a Rico, whether it's a Spike, a Crow, an Otis, a Colt, an Amber, something along those lines, you need at least one brawler that will scout the grass. You want one brawler that is very good whilst inside of the grass that can deal a lot of damage. So Ems, Mina, Shelly, you got like Tara, you got Chester, you got quite a few, or any tanks. You just need one of both of those, and then you can kind of just judge how the draft is going. That's just my absolute must in terms of center stage. It's a very sneaky map, so you got to be careful of people pushing you. Yeah, last picks as well. You got KNG Trunk. Bro, that's a new brawler. That'll be funny actually, Truck skin. But yeah, last pick's just the same assassins and control. Pinball Dreams is next, and here are your best picks on your screen. So with Pinball Dreams, again, pretty much the same draft as Triple Dribble in my opinion, because there is quite a lot of rock paper scissors when it comes down to this map in particular, because with Brawl you can play a lot of brawlers, so the brawler pool is very vast. And take a look at the walls. There's a lot of positions you can take with a thrower or a tank or an assassin, which is going to be very annoying for the rest of the brawlers. So yeah, Rico's definitely back in the meta, especially on Pinball Dreams. Pierce can be pretty solid in the middle, but do be wary because throwers and assassins will counter Pierce, and they're very good on this map. Mo is very good here because Mo can wall peek exceptionally well with his main attack, and his super can help against like squishy brawlers, against throwers. So Mo's that really good hybrid pick. Same goes with Mina as well. She can apply a lot of pressure and get to those walls. That's why I really like going, at least, you got to definitely go a tank or a thrower. So even if the enemy drafts, I don't know, like an Otis and a Shelly, a lot of time, if your team doesn't have any type of aggression, I would still advise picking an aggressive brawler if that makes sense. Even if your stats are pretty bad, you just need to do it for the sake of the game. Enough people just don't do that. I do it a lot. My stats always look bad, but you just got to go it. And in terms of 6th pick, again, it's always the assassins and throwers on this map. So making sure in your composition that you're covering all bases. You've got a brawler that can deal a lot of damage in case there's any assassins or tanks. You've got a brawler that can maybe open walls or again apply pressure to a thrower. So you've got a bit of everything here, and you don't want to be outranged too heavily in that mid engagement. So a lot to consider. Sneaker Fields is next, and with the best brawlers on your screen, Sneaker Fields plays very similar to center stage because there's a lot of bushes, there's a lot of choke points. You know, brawlers that will scout can be pretty good, but if you only have brawlers that scout, still the enemy can push into the bushes and they can gain map control. So again, you need a little bit of everything when it comes down to Sneaky Fields. So with Sneaky Fields, I can always advise one brawler that can at least scout pretty well. So whether it's a Rico, a Spike, a Crow, whether it's an Otis, Ruffs can scout really well. Any brawler that in particular that you've got vision gear with will really help you out on these bushy maps. Trust me, it is absolutely essential, or any type of wall break, so you know when an enemy is sneaking up onto you, because you break open the grass and then they can't sneak through the grass. In terms of last picks, again, your typical tanks, tanks, assassins, that's just your standard with 6th pick. So what I do recommend, you need a brawler that, again, that can hold value inside of the middle. So whether that's a powerful super, Shelly in the middle can be very dangerous. Whether that's a Frank in the middle can be very dangerous. Ali, constantly patrolling the grass. The enemies are going to be like, okay, I don't want to stay in the grass because Ali's in there and she'll just destroy me in a second. Same goes with Lily. These types of brawlers are definitely needed because if you get map control, most of the time you win the game. So you want brawlers that have a good presence inside of the bush. And lastly, for Brawl, we have Triple Dribble. So here are your best picks for Triple Dribble. So again, very similar to Pinball Dreams, but there are more advantages on this map because if you have that right side spawn, you've got that long line of sight, and you can definitely get away with going a brawler like Pierce, Rico, a few other ones as well, Meeple, Gus, Byron. You can definitely get away with going these brawlers, but only on the far right. So in the middle, it is always this kind of, well, not rock, paper, scissors battle, but is always a consideration to either go a thrower or a brawler that kind of counters a thrower or gets a lot of like pressure. So normally in that mid engagement, you kind of seeing like the Willows, the Shades, the Larry, Hank, Juju, Barley. You see these types of brawlers, it's either you know, these brawlers are typically facing off against each other in the middle, and then you always want, I mean, tanks are pretty good on this map for pressure, but not like anything crazy. Typically you have one kind of hybrid brawler that's just good at poking damage, whether that's a Mo, whether that's a Meeple, whether that's Ruffs, that type of brawler. And then again, you need that explosive brawler that will create a lot of pressure and score you goals, because again, scoring goals can be hard when you've just got 3 control brawlers. So whether you need like a Cordelius that can create some space, whether that's a Lily, whether that's a Kaze, Carl, Frank, these types of brawlers you need. So now moving on to gem grab, starting off with double swoosh. So with double swoosh, what I always recommend in terms of your typical laning, of course you want one middle, you want a brawler on the left that is good defensively and good at scouting. So that typical brawler is normally like an Otis, it is normally, I'm trying to think of some other brawlers here, well, like Spike, for example. Pearl can be good defensively on the left. Buster can really be good on the left, you know what I mean. And then on the right, you need more of a, I mean, you can go with a brawler that scouts as well. You know, typically you see like a Amber right lane or even a Crow or something along those lines. But you need someone that's got to at least apply a little bit of pressure onto the gem carry in the middle as well. So with double swoosh, you typically want a mid, because there's a lot of grass, you want a mid that has some good damage or at least good scouting capabilities. So whether that's a Janet, she's really good at scouting. You don't typically even run, well, a lot of people in gem grab just use the jump gadget to get away from the assassins, but she's just good at scouting with her main attack anyway. Same goes with Jean, same goes with like a Penny with her turret and just her splash overall. Jaeyoung, you know, Crow is used often as a mid. There's a lot of mids that are just not your stereotypical mids, but you kind of have to be on a map like double swoosh. Again, your 6 picks are going to be your dangerous tanks and whatever else. So make sure that you've got good scouting on this map. Vision gear is probably the key to success here. Next up, we have Gem Fort here. Your best picks on your screen it right here. So Gem Fort is a very messy map, and one that, as you know, I really like this map myself, but it's very hard to make work with randoms when you're not constantly communicating where the enemy is. So that's why you can just get away with, especially in Gem Fort, going a lot of explosive brawlers, because the turnaround potential on this map is crazy. Because again, it's very rare that the opponents are going to be constantly tracking you. So a lot of times you can sneak in down either side of the bushes, and if you've got an explosive brawler like either a tank or an assassin, or like a Tara super or a Shelly with super, you know, there's a lot of dangerous counterplay here. So with the first picks against your typical brawlers that will either scout or be good inside of bushes, or be good at countering brawlers that are good inside of bushes. So you won't see your typical like low DPS brawlers here, because again, there's a lot of bushes with brawlers that can make explosive plays. So yeah, just do with that what you will. It's hard to really come up with like a draft feces here, because it's just a lot of carnage. Next up, we have Hard Rock Mine here. Your best picks on your screen right here. So with Hard Rock Mine, I will say Rico is definitely back in the meta for me. Again, like at that top competitive level, pros will know how to counter Rico, but I'm gonna say up until like Masters 2, people still don't know how to counter Rico on Hard Rock Mine. So yeah, I say he's definitely one of the best picks for you guys. In terms of really good aggressive picks, Ali's still one of the best brawlers inside of the game, especially in Gem Grab. Lily. So I made a drafting error literally on stream the other day, where, for example, I went like, well, my teammates went Ruffs and Spike, and then I went Byron. So that's really bad in Gem Grab, right? Especially if Lily and Ali aren't banned, because they're squishy. With Gem Grab, you definitely want some survivability in there as well. So for your mid brawlers, yes, snipers can be okay, but typically you want brawlers that have good sustain or ways to get away from these assassins. So Janet with super and gadget, Crow with jump and shield gadget, you got Max with speed and her gadget. You've got like Gus with the shield. You know, Byron can still defend himself a little bit, but on the squishier side, at least he has his super available. Meeple with knockback. You've got Jaeyoung as well with the speed to get away. Pam with just an abundance of health. These are the typical mids that are good in Hard Rock Mine. Again, you want, typically in Hard Rock Mine, you always want one aggressive brawler. You don't always have to, but you need to be applying pressure to the enemy gem carry. So whether that's with some decent range units like the Rico, like I said, or whether that's like a Hank going in, whether it's a Ali going in, Lily going in, etc. And then you want a brawler that is good defensively as well, protecting your gem carrier. So Hard Rock Mine is the same as always. And lastly, for gem grab, we have Undermine. So Undermine, is, yeah, a pretty annoying map. I mean, Gem Grab has always been a little bit, like, it used to be one of my best game modes, but with the hypercharges being released and also the map pool, it's starting to get a little more annoying, because with Undermine, again, it is often about just winning that first interaction, and then the map just gets very messy because it's very hard to regain control of your lane. So you can go one of two ways, especially down the lane. You can either go a brawler that just has good presence inside of the grass, so if you can sneak up on your lane matchup, you could just deal an abundance of damage quickly, you know, like an Ems for example, or a Frank, or a Lily. Yeah, you can destroy that lane, or you go for the range option with the vision gear, hopefully, or some type of poison like a crow, and just chip the opponent down. And then that's a lot better on this map, because say for example you win your lane matchup with an Amber, while they're respawning, they're forced to go to Amber, who has insane range and a really high damage super. Yeah, that's just how Undermine typically goes. So in terms of your strategy here, I do again recommend going to mid. That can be safe to get away from certain situations, so whether that's like a Charlie, whether that's Max, Gus, Janet, again, you want to go these types of mids. Again, tanks can be good, but you want to use that towards the end of a draft when you know you have a good matchup. So for example, if the enemy goes like a Hank or a Buster or something, then you can pull out the Ash, or pull out Mortis or something along those lines. So yeah, Undermine, very toxic. Also a tip as well, if you do lose your lane and your teammate is winning their lane, often it's actually just good to go down your teammate's lane, because it's very, very hard to win back a lane on your own. Okay, so now jumping into the featured game mode for this season in ranked high, starting off with Hot Potato. So yeah, these are the best picks. I will actually say, I think Heist, again, is a game mode that is typically really hard to make work with randoms. I think I'm struggling the most with Heist this season. So yeah, I'm going to have to figure out some stuff in terms of draft, but for definitely these are the best picks. So Berry is insane in Heist. I know a lot of people will typically try and ban like a Colt, Spike, Ems, Rico, those types of things, but Berry is still the best pick in my opinion, literally because you can't stop a Berry. You need to pinch every single time to stop him, because what Berry can do is just super forward and just gadget until safe. That's 20% done. He just needs to do that a few times and it's basically game over. Rico's definitely back in the meta, and because of his unload speed buff, he's able to scout the bushes a lot more effectively. He's able to just dominate lanes. I mean, he was never really in the Hot Potato meta for a very long time, because good players could just sneak up on him easily, but I think with this buff, I think they really can't anymore. Ems, again, very good sneaky brawler. It's Ems at the end of the day. Colt is returning to the Heist meta, absolutely one of the best Heist brawlers in terms of pure damage. Crow is just insane in Heist, because it doesn't really matter what he faces off against. He's going to get his super, he's going to get his hypercharge, and he's going to deal a lot of damage. So again, with Heist, you need a bit of everything. So the minimum you need with Heist is an offensive brawler and a defensive brawler. That's the absolute minimum, unless, you know, things pan out differently inside of a draft and you can just only go aggressive things. Typically, that's what you want to be aiming for, right? So whether that's an Otis as a defender, whether that's a Cordelius, whether that's, I don't know, there's a plethora of options, Tara, Charlie, RT, and again, you need something a little bit aggressive as well. So whether that's a Carl, Kaze, there's a lot of things, but those are the two main things you got to consider. So now moving into Kaboom Canyon, here are your best picks right here. So Kaboom Canyon plays pretty similar to Safe Zone in terms of your picks overall. Chuck, I've learned a few times on stream that just don't even trust your teammates to ban the Chuck, or even know how to counter him. So just if an opponent gets first pick, just ban the Chuck. Your biggest Chuck counters, by the way, are definitely Cordelius and RT, and maybe Otis as well is pretty decent. But most of the time it's just Cordelius straight up. Pierce and Angelo are going to be your best picks in terms of Kaboom. So again, in your pro level things, like pros know how to counter like Pierce and Angelo, but I think for the most part in ranked, you should be pretty safe. Kaze, again, you need that offensive brawler. Colt and Crow are going to be your damage brawlers as well. So with Kaboom Canyon, you do typically need, again, like a defensive brawler and an offensive brawler. And then normally you go with like an in-between. So your in-between brawlers can be something like an Amber, because Amber can be really good defensively with this spinny gadget and just deal a lot of damage, and then she can deal a lot of damage to the high safe as well. Same goes for like your kind of in-between brawlers, so whether that's a Byron, a Belle, a little bit of range won't go amiss. Lola is a good example. She can, just like Amber, turn defense into offense really well. And again, I do recommend always going an aggro pick, even if the opponents have for like 3 defensive brawlers. even like you just got an aggressive brawler. If you can get into the top left corner or just cause constant pressure, even if you're getting pinched out, normally that allows your teammates to get some damage onto the safe as well. So just bear that in mind with your draft. So now moving on to Pit Stop. So Pit Stop, just like Hot Potato, is quite a base race map, but this definitely is the biggest one inside of the game because it is just about pure damage. So again, what you want inside of Heist, I say it time and time again, 1 defender and probably 2 aggressive brawlers this time around. So you'll be making sure that you're trying to collect the best defenders as quickly as possible here. So Cordelius is probably your best defender alongside Ems. Spike can be pretty good as well, but Cordelius is probably the best shutdown, absolutely, because he can also jump over walls, which will also help you against any throwers should they come about, because they can still be pretty decent inside a Pit Stop even with the amount of aggression. So it's just about pure damage here. So whether it's a Rico in terms of just being that good hybrid brawler, defensive, offensive, he can do everything. Same goes with Colt as well. He just deals so much damage. Mainly he's an offensive brawler, but he can be defensive with the speed loader gadget. Spike as well, again a good in-between brawler that can deal a lot of damage. But most of the time, you just want brawlers that can just go through walls or just quickly overwhelm the opponents and deal a lot of damage. Again, base race maps. So whether that's a Miko, just constantly jumping over people and onto the enemy safe. Edgar, same goes with him. Shade, very good for that reason. Melody can get onto the safe quickly. Bull, Draco, these types of brawlers that can just quickly, you know, once they burst through the defenses, they're dealing 25%, 50% damage to the safe. Last picks, only really got to worry about like Dynamite and a couple of throwers. So next up we have Safe Zone. So Safe Zone, again, plays pretty similar to Kaboom Canyon in terms of your picks. So Chuck is always going to be your best. Angelo's going to be that good defensive / middle brawler. Pierce as well, going to be really good in the middle. So typically what happens here is that you have like one sniper that's just dominating the middle. So whether that's like a Nanny, a Angelo / Pierce, you know, Angelo's kind of like lane / middle, but you get what I mean, whether that's a Bell in the middle, whether that's Brock, Piper, Baron. There's normally something with some decent range hanging around the middle. And then you want your offensive brawler, so whether that's a Chuck, whether that's well, you don't have to always go offensive, but it's just someone that can deal like a quick amount of damage. So whether that's even a Crow, he can be a good hybrid, and he gets his hypercharge and deals a lot of damage. You know, Melody on the save, Lily on the save, Kaze are your typical ones. You know, Mina can get on the save and deal a lot of damage as well. And like I said, you want a defensive brawler. So typically you probably want a bit of range for your defensive brawler. So I think like Otis again is one of my favorites in terms of defending. Who else have we got here? I mean, we've got like Cordelius, who can be pretty good. I mean, you don't need an absolute defender here, but at least someone that can appropriately deal with, you know, like a Miko that could be annoying, or just anyone can get up to the safe quickly. Melody that can deal some quick burst damage. Next up we have Safe Zone. So it literally is Safe Zone, but with a different kind of layout to the base. But this literally plays exactly like Safe Zone. I guess the biggest change is that there's actually like 2 ways you can hide behind those walls and deal a lot of damage. So I guess aggressive brawlers do have probably a bit more of an advantage over Safe Zone, but I don't think the picks have really changed too much. Again, I just think it's mainly playstyle. So if you can get a brawler that can get in behind enemy lines, whether it's in the grass or just constantly getting behind those walls, you can deal a lot of damage. You know, for example, like a Carl is probably your best bet with Flying Hook, or even a Kaze getting in behind there. That's your best bet in terms of different strategy here. And lastly for Heist, we have Bridge Too Far. So Bridge Too Far, literally you see by the map, it is complete open lanes. It's all about your 1 versus 1 matchups. So as always, you probably want that one good damage dealer brawler, but I don't think you really need an aggressive brawler on this map. I mean, it can be good, right? So the later on in draft, you can probably draft these like assassins to counter your snipers, etc. But if you're going to draft these assassins early, they can definitely be countered a lot easier on a map like this, because even say if you're an assassin in the far left, even a brawler on the far right of the map can notice, okay, my teammates lost lane, I can fall back and then kill this assassin I was about to get on our safe, if that makes sense. So with Bridge of Fire, I like the hybrid brawlers the most on this map. So whether it's like a Crow, whether it's an Amber, Otis, whether this is, you know, 8-bit, Lola, these are the types of brawlers that I love the most, because they can easily defend, and then they can easily, you know, they get onto the safe for just a split second and deal a ton of damage. So snipers are good, but they're not going to be dealing a lot of damage to the safe quickly. So go for your hybrid brawlers. Last picks are your normally like your assassins / tanks. And that's about it. So now moving on to Hot Zone. So Hot Zone, Dueling, Beetles. I will say the Hot Zone meta has definitely changed a little bit here just because of your best brawlers. A lot of the newer brawlers inside of the meta. So Spike, M's are going to be your best bets. Pierce as well, holding down the lane. So I will say with Hot Zone, I think the grey cheese is just still as strong as ever. Even though there's some good damage dealers out there, it's really hard to stop. So whether you just want to ban grey and stop that nonsense could be a good bet, or making sure that you're picking up a really good counter to grey. So Lou is probably your best one, or an Ems. I will say as well, the meta has changed a bit because Poco is definitely back in the meta. I think on a map like this, you can still counter him if you haven't got anything aggressive to pair him with, whether that's like a Draco or a brawler that will sustain their life really well on the Hot Zone. Poco does that already, but he needs someone to extend that. So again, something a bit tanky, something a bit aggressive, so he can pair really well off that. In terms of Dueling Beetles, though, last pick is always really dangerous here because, say, if you've got like Pam and then two other control brawlers, they can go a Squeak, they can go a Thrower, they can go a Penny, or they can even go Assassin. Typically people get into that where they go like 3 low DPS brawlers and then will get trapped pretty often, so do bear that in mind. Next up we have Open Business. So Open Business, I really like this map mainly because it kind of plays a little bit similar to Dueling Beetles. A lot of walls, so a lot of different brawlers can work on this type of map. So same goes with Dueling Beetles. Easier, same brawlers that are really strong. Juju I really like here just because you can just farm super really easily. She's still pretty good with the hypercharge. Again, your grey cheese is definitely very strong. Finks is very good on Open Business, but I just think there's even better brawlers and really powerful brawlers inside of his meta, so that's why I've put them ahead of Finks. Finks can be good, but he does definitely struggle against the Franks, the Hanks, and these types of really cheesy compositions that go with Poco as well. So a lot more counters right now into the Finks, but he's still very good in Hot Zone. If you are wondering, the probably biggest downside, like the brawlers that have fell off the most inside of Hot Zone, are probably like Meeple, Draco, Lumi. These types of brawlers are trending downwards, and when you go into your 6 picks, you've got to be careful in your draft. You've got to consider everything, and you've got to be careful that you might face off against a Kenji, a Mortis, or a Thrower last pick. So make sure that you're covering all bases. Next up for Hot Zone, we have Parallel Plays. Here, your best picks on your screen right here. And if you've known in my stream for a very long time now, this is the one map that I just can never seem to get right with my randoms. I don't know whether it's me, I don't know whether it's my randoms. It's a very hard map to make work. It always has been anyways, even when I used to play this back in the old days in competitive, because it's all about like pinching, all about communication, knowing when to go defensive, when to go offensive. Maybe I need to do more strategy guides on this map in particular, but it's very obvious what you need in this draft. Basically, you need like a thrower's typically good, but you just need one aggressive brawler to get on that right zone, and you always need a good defensive brawler, and then one in between. So whether that defensive brawler is a thrower or it's some brawler that is really good high damage, so whether that's a Spike, you got to bear in mind as well. Typically, your strategy with this map is you send 2 people to the left and 1 on the right, and once you pinch out the brawler on your zone, you try and push up and spawn trap. That's typically how it goes. Your assassin is always going to struggle because normally they're getting pinched out on that defensive lane, but you've always just got to go an assassin anyway because that's just a way to create pressure on this map. So again, your best assassins are going to be like Mina, Hank, whether that's, again, even in some matchups you can switch over lanes and put your thrower down the right hand lane instead, but you can like Shades, Cordelius can be pretty good aggressive, Frank, GG, Trunk, Mortis, Kenji's very, very good on this map, Ali. That's pretty much how it goes. 2 defensive, 1 offensive. And lastly for Hot Zone, we have Ring of Fire here, your best brawlers on this map. So with Ring of Fire, what I always recommend is going 2 brawlers, typically in and around the mid, and then 1 brawler trying to create pressure, whether it's down the left or whether it's down the right. That's going to be your best recipe for a win. So on this map, typically range is going to be pretty good. I think Finks is the best here just because, again, a lot of people get lost in trying to constantly sneak around the enemy side. I do recommend doing it, but not all the time. Focus primarily on the objective in the middle. That's how you win games, right? It doesn't matter if you're constantly dying, as long as you're getting on that zone, it is fine. So Finks is really good for that reason because his super just confirms zone time. Same with brawlers like Lou, for example. Crow's very good because he's going to get consistent damage. Brawlers that will get their super fed are typically very good here. So Your Ambers, your Pierce, your Pam can be pretty good here as well. Lou is typically still good here, even though it's hard to hit shots with. It's still going to be good because you know you're eventually going to get super. You know eventually someone's going to come within your range because they've got to get on the hot zone. So that's why I typically like these types of brawlers. B is actually very good here. I know it's a bad hacking situation, but outside of that, B is still pretty solid. And then you've got to be careful of your control brawlers. Control brawlers are probably better than assassins on this map, just because you typically face off against a lot of high damage or snipers on this map, so controller is really good into that. And finally, let's move on to Knockout, my least favorite game mode inside of ranked, as you probably know. But the ranked meta, well, for Knockout hasn't really changed a whole lot, but I mean, there's been a few changes. Let's go through them. So Gene and Pierce are going to be your best bets. With Knockout, you typically just want your safest brawler first. Rico's very, very good in Bell's Rock, always has been, but especially with this recent buff. Gray's very good because of Walking Cane. He can be good against throwers and can be good into everything else once he gets a super. Gus and Mina can be very good as well. So with Bell's Rock, it is kind of a rock, paper, scissors, but what people get trapped into too much is going those really long range snipers, which will just get countered too easily. So stop going Piper on this map, stop going Mandy, stop going Nanny on this map. I mean, they can be good into other brawlers eventually as the draft goes on, but those brawlers can just get spawn trapped too easily. They're kind of how it goes here in Bell's Rock. If you get that mid control, you're typically going to win a lot of times. So if you have like a high health brawler or a brawler that can peek around walls pretty effectively on Bell's Rock, you're going to just push the opponents back to their spawn. So yeah, I mean, you do have a few brawlers you've got to be careful about, like Gigi, Lily, Kenji, throwers, for example, at the end of the draft, but making sure that you've got like one kind of meaty sniper, decent health, one maybe like control brawler, whether it's a thrower or whether it's like a squeak or something, and then if you have a last pick, you can kind of just do as you please. Next up for Knockout, we have Flare and Phoenix. Here, your best picks on your screen right here. So Flare and Phoenix is a map that I really don't like. I just don't like Knockout. I kind of wish they would remove even Knockout, Bouncy, and Competitive eventually. It gets pretty stale. Mainly because with Knockout, it's just all about, camping, sitting in bushes, and then once the gas closes in, your fighting kind of happens there. So typically, I mean, you can go like Assassins later on in the draft, but they're not really that good. Normally you have like a thrower or a control brawler down the left-hand lane. You typically have like your snipers, whatever, in the middle. I mean, this map is just very camp based. Like I said, it's just all about trying to pick the best brawlers and then making sure that you're not getting countered by like an assassin late pick. That's about it really. So whether you have like a couple of brawlers that can at least defend against that, like a Gus or an RT or something, yeah, I don't know. It's Knockout. You guys should know how to draft it. New Horizons is next for Knockout here. Best picks on your screen right here. So with New Horizons, like I always say, you've got to be a little bit careful of the cheese. So I always try and recommend having a brawler in your composition, at least one of them, that can do something through walls or over walls, particularly on this map. So whether it's a Gene with Gene Pool, whether it's an Angelo with the Pierce gadget, whether it's Pierce with his super that can throw projectiles through walls, whether it's a Byron with his super, whether it's a Brock that can break open walls. You get the gist here. Whether it's a Colt that can break open the walls, whether it's an Ems that can shoot through the walls. I actually used a bit in competitive more than I realized. Spike shoot around walls. RT with his super. Gray can hook. You get what I mean here. Nanny can break open the walls here. The reason why I'm saying this, Piper can break open the walls, Meeple can shoot through them, Squeak can shoot around them. I'm saying all of this because typically what happens is the last pick, you'll have three snipers that can't, say if you go Gus, Byron, and a Bell, well, you're just going to get spawn trapped because the opponent will go like an alley or a Squeak or a thrower. You need something that can break open walls just in case of the cheese, or if you can break open walls and you outrange the opponents, you're just going to win. That's a fact. So moving on to the final map here in the guide, we have Out in the Open. So Out in the Open is all about your longer range brawlers. Again, assassins and tanks can work towards the end of the draft, but they don't actually work as often as they do in other game modes, but definitely be wary of them. This map's just all about picking up the best snipers. It's just plain and simple, and then trying to counter the enemy snipers by your picks. So whether that's either like a Max, whether that's a Nanny, whether that's a Buster or something along those lines, it's just how this map goes. It's not really too much in terms of strategy. The main strategy here is at least maybe like one wall break, whether that's Brock or something that can destroy that back wall, would be best, but it's just all about picking those high powerful snipers and making sure you're not getting pushed back to your spawn. So yeah, that's gonna be it for today's video, guys. Hope you enjoyed. So this isn't like a complete draft guide as such, because it would literally take me hours and hours to really help you in terms of draft strategy for every single map, but maybe that's something I need to venture into a little bit more. But cheat sheets are very, very valuable. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.